buckle up, because this deep dive, well, this one takes us into a world that's dark, gritty, drenched in neon.
Oh, sounds intense. I'm ready.
Think 1980s New York City, but with a very familiar threat thrown into the mix. We're talking Terminators.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Which story are we tackling this time?
Issue 1 of Terminator, Sector War. In this one, a rookie cop in the Bronx finds herself the target of a time-traveling killing machine.
A rookie cop, huh? So not your typical Terminator target. This should be interesting.
Right. That's what immediately grabbed me, too.
Yeah.
So why her? Why target a rookie cop in the Bronx? Well, that's what we're here to figure out.
And to be fair, Sector War does some really clever things with the Terminator mythology.
Oh, absolutely.
We're in 1984, same year as the first film, but while Sarah Connor's dealing with her own Terminator problems out in LA.
Right.
This story slams us right into New York City. The whole multiple targets idea they introduce adds a whole new level of complexity to what Skynet's up to.
It's like suddenly the stakes are raised exponentially, you know? Okay, so let's talk about Lucy Castro, our protagonist in this whole mess. Now, she's not Ripley. She's not Sarah Connor gearing up for the apocalypse or anything.
No, definitely not.
Lucy's just your average cop dealing with a tough precinct, you know, the daily grind.
Yeah, the job, the life, the works.
And a personal life that's, well, let's just say it's not all sunshine and roses either.
I feel that.
And the comic really emphasizes how worn down she is by it all, which makes the whole Terminator situation even more jarring. You're like thrown into it with her.
That's what makes her relatable, though, don't you think?
Totally.
The Terminator, the franchise. I mean, it's always excelled at taking these ordinary people and throwing them into extraordinary, often terrifying circumstances.
Right.
We see her weariness, her struggles, and it just makes that sudden plunge into this sci-fi nightmare all the more impactful, you know?
Yeah, you really feel for her.
And then the reveal of her pregnancy later on, man, that adds a whole other layer. Mirroring Sarah Connor's story in a way. Those themes of motherhood amidst the chaos.
Oh, totally. Foreshadowing, maybe? Okay, but speaking of chaos, we're going to talk about the Terminator itself.
Yes.
We get the classic T-800 model.
Yeah.
It's the one, the OG that made Arnold.
Exactly.
And even on the page, even without the whole cinematic experience, the comic captures that chilling menace. It's all business. No time for pleasantries.
Oh, none whatsoever.
You get those classic visual elements that just scream T-800. And it sends chills down your spine. That imposing build, you know, the skeletal robotic face, the glowing red eye, it's all there. And that silence, that complete and utter focus on eliminating the target. Oh man, the tension is just palpable.
Just ratchets up the tension.
Okay, so let's dig into some of the standout moments that really sell this comic. You know, what brings it to life. The Terminator's entrance, for example. Talk about a visual callback to the first film.
Oh, for sure.
We're in a dark, grimy New York City alleyway, rain's pouring down.
Classic.
And bam, this ball of energy just explodes out of thin air and outsteps the Terminator, ready for business.
No hesitation. What did you think of that scene?
It's such a good hook. Like, if you know, right? Instantly tells you, okay, we're in for some high-stakes action, an unstoppable antagonist.
You know you're in for a fight for survival. Right off the bat.
But it also immediately sets the stage for how this comic takes those familiar elements and spins them in its own way.
It's a fresh take while still respecting the source material. I dig it.
Me too. And then there's that scene, you know, the one where the Terminator attacks Lucy's apartment?
Brutal. Talk about a rude awakening.
It's a true show, don't tell moment. We don't need dialogue to understand how powerful the Terminator is.
Not at all.
It just tosses Lucy's boyfriend aside like he's nothing, tears through the apartment with this chilling efficiency. And just like that, it establishes the stakes. You can't reason with this thing. You can't really fight it head on. Survival is the name of the game now.
It's terrifyingly efficient.
Which, of course, leads us to that amazing chase through the city.
Heart-pounding stuff.
I feel like I was right there with Lucy, dodging, running, you know, feeling that adrenaline and fear as she tries to outmaneuver this relentless machine.
And the way the comic uses the environment, right? The dark alleys, rooftops, even a dingy bodega at one point.
It all just adds to the intensity.
It ramps up the tension with every turn of the page. It's like the city itself becomes another character, reflecting the chaos that Lucy's suddenly thrown into. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. It really pulls you in. That sets a place.
Oh.
But let's get back to the why, right? We've got a Terminator on the loose. A rookie cop who's terrified out of her mind, but the comic keeps us guessing. Why Lucy? What makes her so important to Skynet?
It's the mystery at the heart of it all, and the comic's smart about how it doles out clues. The timing, for one, that's huge.
Okay, yeah, we're in 1984.
Same year as the first film, which is no coincidence. While Sarah Connor's facing her nightmare in LA, Lucy's ordeal is playing out on the other side of the country.
Parallel storylines, both tied to this huge threat, but going in totally different directions.
It's like Skynet's playing 3D chess with humanity's future, and we're stuck trying to figure out checkers.
We're the pawns, right? Just trying to make sense of the moves?
Exactly. This whole simultaneous targeting thing throws a wrench in our understanding of Skynet. It's not just about taking out one single person. It's got to be something way bigger with far-reaching consequences. Like you said, the stakes are just that much higher now.
Which begs the question, how does Skynet even choose? What would make a rookie cop from the Bronx, of all people, a threat to, like, a hyper-intelligent machine from the future? It doesn't add up.
Right. It's the million-dollar question. The comic throws out a few hints, though. One theory is that Skynet's running some crazy advanced algorithms analyzing the past to pinpoint individuals who might cause trouble down the line.
So not even just based on what they're doing now, but what they might do, or who they're connected to.
Potentially, it could be about their future actions, relationships, maybe even their descendants. It's messing with our understanding of cause and effect.
Whoa, so Lucy might not even be the main target. It could be someone she's going to meet, someone she's related to. Like generations down the line. That's some heavy stuff to think about. Imagine being hunted by a Terminator because your great-great-grandchild might invent, like, time travel-resistant hairspray or something.
See, that's what I love about this premise. Makes you question free will, you know? If Skynet's basing its actions on predictions, does that mean those events are guaranteed to happen? Or can human choices, human actions, actually change the course of things?
It's like that classic debate, destiny versus free will. Philosophers and sci-fi fans have been going back and forth on that one forever.
Right.
But speaking of things that make you think, we got to address the elephant, or maybe the pregnancy, in the room here.
Oh, absolutely. The reveal of Lucy's pregnancy, can't gloss over that. It'd be easy to miss with all the Terminator chaos going on, but it adds a whole other layer, wouldn't you say? We're not just dealing with Lucy's survival now. We're talking about the possibility of new life, a future generation, in a world that feels like it's on the verge of collapse.
It's like this weird juxtaposition, you know? This gritty, violent Terminator attack happening alongside this glimmer of hope, the potential for something new to come out of it. And, of course, you can't talk about pregnancy and Terminator without thinking about Sarah Connor.
Exactly.
That parallel is right there. Motherhood all tangled up in this desperate fight against something that seems unstoppable.
And that connection to Sarah Connor makes you consider Lucy's situation even more. Like, if she makes it through this, if this child is born, what kind of world are they going to be born into?
Right. What will be left?
It's a lot to process, that's for sure.
Really makes you think about the ripple effects. You know, this isn't just machines versus humans in some big abstract showdown. This is about the individual stories, the lives that are changed forever because of this war against, like, fate itself.
And the fact that the Terminator franchise, after all this time, can still find ways to explore that, to find these new angles on a story that's been told and retold, that's impressive.
It's a testament to the core concept, right? It still resonates. And speaking of things that resonate, we got to talk about how the artists handled the Terminator visually.
Yeah. What'd you think?
It's the T-800, we know it. But there's something about the way they draw it that's just unnerving. It gets under your skin.
They weren't afraid to lean into the horror aspect of it.
At all. It's in the eyes, I think. Those cold, lifeless eyes. This isn't just a machine. It's like a monster wearing human skin.
Yeah. Gives me chills just thinking about it.
It reminds me of that scene in the first movie, you know, the one where the Terminator just like casually removes its own eye. Pure nightmare fuel.
Totally. It's those little details, though, that make all the difference. The way the artists use shadows, the angles, the way the Terminator moves with that creepy grace and precision.
Like it's too perfect, too smooth.
It all builds this sense of dread, of unease. You're constantly reminded that Lucy is up against something that operates on a whole other level.
It's like comparing a house cat to a tiger. They're both cats, but one's going to ruin your day with a scratch post, and the other, well, you get the picture. But here's the thing. Even against this enemy that seems impossible to beat, Lucy, she just doesn't give up.
That's what I love about her. She's not a soldier, no special training. She's not the chosen one or anything. She's just a person trying to make it through a nightmare.
That's what makes her relatable.
Exactly. It's that pure, raw determination, that refusal to go down without a fight. That's what resonates with us as readers.
It taps into that fear we all have of the unknown, that feeling of being in over your head. But it's also about the resilience of people. Even when the odds are stacked against you, when everything's falling apart, there's this primal need to fight back, to survive, to protect the things that matter. And for Lucy, right now, that means protecting her unborn child.
Well said. It's a reminder that even in the darkest moments, even staring into the abyss, humanity finds a way. It endures. And that brings us back to the setting of Terminator Sector War, to those gritty, neon-drenched streets of 1980s New York City. It's not just a backdrop. It's another reflection of that struggle, that fight to survive against impossible odds.
Yeah, it's like the city itself becomes a character. It's dark, it's unforgiving, but there's this pulse underneath it all, a sense of resilience that's similar to Lucy's. And the artists captured that so well.
Totally.
The way they use shadows and light, the grime, the grit, it all adds to the atmosphere.
And the way they contrast that grittiness with those bursts of neon.
Oh, yeah.
It's like this visual language for the tension of the story. Darkness for the unknown, for the threat of the Terminator, and then those flickers of neon, almost like sparks of hope, of defiance in this urban jungle.
Like little beacons cutting through the darkness. It's cool how they did that.
It's visual storytelling at its best.
Okay, so we've talked setting, characters, action. But one of the things I really appreciate about this comic is how well it handles the quieter moments. The scenes where we get a glimpse into Lucy's head, her emotions, those are the parts that stick with you.
100%. It would have been easy to get lost in the spectacle of it all, the Terminator, the action sequences, but Sector War never forgets the human cost. We see Lucy's fear, her exhaustion, but also her determination.
It makes her real.
Exactly, and that's what makes her such a compelling character to follow.
It reminds us that even when crazy stuff is happening, when the world feels like it's falling apart, it's those human connections, the personal struggles that really matter. It's about finding that strength to keep moving forward, even when things seem hopeless.
Powerful stuff.
Speaking of powerful stuff, there's this scene I wanted to touch on. It's this brief but brilliant moment of levity amidst all the chaos. You know that bodega scene I mentioned earlier?
Yes, the bodega scene. Such a good example of dark humor, character development, all woven into this seemingly ordinary encounter.
It's perfect. You have this relentless killing machine, this like harbinger of the apocalypse, and it walks into a bodega like it's ordering a coffee.
It's those unexpected moments of humor that keep the story grounded,
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even when faced with unimaginable terror, with the fate of humanity in the balance, life in some form or another goes on. And sometimes life involves a Terminator politely requesting a shotgun.
And they even get the details right, like the way they drew the inside of that bodega is so authentic.
Exactly. Those little details matter. They make the world feel real, even when the situation is anything but.
For sure. It's those details, those moments of dark humor that make Terminator Sector War such a gripping read. But then just when you think you've got a handle on things, the comic throws another curveball. The reveal of Lucy's pregnancy. It's like, whoa, just when you think Lucy can't catch a break, the story throws this massive wrench into everything.
Talk about upping the stakes, right?
Yeah.
Everything changes. Emotionally, narratively, the whole game shifts. It's not just about her getting out of this alive anymore. It becomes this whole other thing about the future, about the potential for new life in a world that seems like it's falling apart.
And makes that whole question of why Lucy even more complicated. Like, is it possible Skynet sees her unborn child as the real threat?
It's definitely on the table.
Could this be the kid who ends up leading the resistance or something?
It ties into that whole lineage theme that runs through Terminator,
Yeah.
John Connor, Kyle Reese, Sarah Connor, it all comes back to family. And here we are again. It's like this one detail, Lucy being pregnant, just blows open the possibilities. Who is this kid going to be? What role will they play?
Talk about pressure. It's like the comic throws us a lifeline and then yanks the rug out from under us at the same time. We're left dealing with the weight of it all, just like Lucy is. We've covered a lot here, the setting, those characters, the action. But I think one of the things Sector War nails is those quieter, character-driven moments, those scenes where we get inside Lucy's head. Those are the parts that really get to me.
Me too. It would have been so easy to just lean into the big, loud stuff, the Terminator, the action sequences. But this comic never lets you forget about the human cost. We see Lucy's fear, her exhaustion, but also that core of determination in her. And it's that vulnerability, that humanity that makes her a protagonist you can really root for.
It reminds us that even when the world's going crazy around you, it's the human element, those personal struggles that matter the most. Finding a way to keep going even when all hope seems lost.
That's what it's all about, right?
That's the stuff that sticks with you. Issue 2 of the Terminator, Sector War.
Yeah.
It just throws us right into the action.
And this comic does not mess around. The opening scene is this crazy truck chase, like bigger than most action movies.
It's those moments you really see how cool comics are, you know? The way they show motion, the crashes,
It's not just reading about a chase. You feel like you're in the truck, and let me tell you, you would not want to trade places.
Especially not with what she's up against.
Then it gets even wilder. Lucy teams up with this street gang, right?
Yeah.
And they stumble into something they totally misunderstand. Like, they think it's just another gang fight or something.
See, but we know it's the Terminator. So it's like watching a horror movie, you just want to yell, don't go in there.
Totally. But of course they do. That's what makes it so intense. But what really got me was how the comic shows the moment they realize it's not a normal enemy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. There's that line from one of the gang cuts.
You have it?
I do. He says, some kind of machine. And it's perfect. It's not even fear yet, just total disbelief. Like they're in way over their heads.
Mm-hmm.
The comic really makes you feel that. It's like another layer of how vulnerable they are, you know?
Yeah. They're thinking rivals, maybe a new gun or something, and then bam, future robot.
And that's really where this issue gets good. You've got the crime thing, the humans versus monster thing, but it's mixed together in a way you don't expect.
Like mixing genres, but like really well.
Right. We were saying the city itself is a character, but even the story's like it's changing on you, and the art follows that, especially with the Terminator.
Oh, the art. The source was all about the art, and it's true. That Terminator feels so heavy, so real, like it could reach out and...
Yeah, it's both familiar and scary. We've seen Terminator, right? But here, it's like classic, but way creepier.
It's giving me those old horror movie vibes where it's not even jump scares. It's that you know something unstoppable is coming.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah.
It's not just that Terminator can kill you. It's like it will kill you, and you can't really grasp that.
And that's where the story gets to you. We're not just watching an action figure fight. We feel what Lucy's going through, being so tired, but having to be strong.
Exactly. And because we're with Lucy so much, those little quiet parts hit harder. Like that bit after the big Terminator fight scene.
Shotgun scene. Pure adrenaline.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's what happens after that got me. Fight's over. The threat's gone for now. And there's Lucy just leaning on that truck, trying to breathe.
It's like you can feel the weight on her in that scene. And not just the shotgun. It's like everything she has to do to stay alive for her and the baby.
And they draw that so well, how exhausted she is, but she can't give up. Makes you realize that even with time travel and killer robots, it's still the human stuff that matters.
Totally. It's finding those little moments that connect us to the characters, even in all that chaos, that makes these stories work.
It's like, yeah, Terminator's terrifying, but we care about what happens to Lucy, to her baby. That's what makes us want to see what happens next, even if it's probably going to be bad.
And that brings up a big question, doesn't it? I mean, this story is so intense, the odds are so against them.
What does winning even mean? I was just thinking that. It's not like there's going to be a parade just because she survives, you know?
Right. This isn't some game where you beat the boss and that's it. This world sector war, it's like surviving I is the win, and even then it costs you something.
Makes you wonder, like, if you were stuck there, what would you even count as a good day? Just not running into a Terminator.
See, that's what's so smart about this comic. It makes us figure out what winning even means when everything's trying to kill you.
It's like that saying, right? It's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up.
Except here, getting up might mean facing like a metal death machine.
No pressure there. But I think that's why we like these stories, you know? Aliens, robots, whatever, seeing regular people facing something huge, it just gets to us.
Totally. It's that fear of the unknown, but also that little hope that maybe, just maybe, we could beat it.
And in a world as messed up as Sector War, hope's a pretty powerful weapon.
It's what keeps Lucy going, right? Fighting for every second she gets, that's not pure terror. Because winning isn't just living, it's finding a reason to keep going when it seems pointless.
Man, that's heavy. And it stays with you even after you're done reading.
That's how you know it's a good story, though, right? Makes you rethink things, makes you wonder what you'd do. All right, so we're diving into issue 3 of the Terminator, Sector War. So what grabbed you about this issue?
Well, I think it takes that familiar Terminator formula
Yeah.
and it just injects this like raw street level intensity, you know?
Okay.
It's not about the fate of humanity anymore. It's about this very immediate, visceral struggle.
Right.
This mother trying to protect her child and everything's gone crazy.
And things get intense. We're talking like gang standoffs, gritty back alleys, a Terminator that can practically smell your fear.
Oh, yeah.
I think one of the more intriguing parts of this issue, which is like this collision of worlds.
Okay.
You got Lucy, who's very grounded, relatable, but she's caught in this crossfire of a time-traveling war.
Right.
And the gritty underworld of gang violence in 80s New York.
Absolutely. And that's where Papa Oso comes in.
Okay.
The gang leader. He's such a fascinating character.
He kind of operates in this moral gray area.
And he forces us to ask some uncomfortable questions. Is he an antagonist? An ally? I don't know.
Right.
The comic doesn't give us easy answers.
Right.
And I think that complexity is what elevates it.
Yeah, it's like the writers took time travel, robots, gang warfare, threw it all in a blender.
Yeah.
And at the center, you have this incredibly human story.
Exactly.
Speaking of the action, I got to hand it to the artist. They really nail the spectacle. You know that scene where the gang tries to take down the Terminator?
Oh, yeah.
Talk about chaos.
Talk about chaos.
You feel every explosion, every blast of that rifle.
But it's not just spectacle, though, is it?
Right.
There's this rawness, a brutality to it. You really see how outmatched they are. They're giving it everything they've got, but against the Terminator.
Like, what are you going to do?
It feels futile.
Yeah, like a car crash.
Right.
You know it's coming, but you can't look away. But even then, with this unstoppable force coming at them, there's that little spark,
Yeah.
that defiance. They choose to fight, even when the odds are completely stacked. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that choice to stand their ground when they probably know deep down they can't win.
You know, it makes you think about the human spirit, you know, that refusal to just give in to fear. A reminder that even when things are really dark, when it seems hopeless, there's a part of us that just wants to fight back
Yeah.
against the darkness. These characters, yeah, they're flawed, they're desperate, but that's what makes them heroic.
It's that human will. You just keep pushing.
It's like that saying, it's not about if you get knocked down, it's whether you get back up.
Exactly.
And Lucy, she is that in this comic.
She embodies that.
Totally.
She stumbles, she has doubts, but she never gives up.
Never.
It's that love, you know, it's more
Yeah.
powerful than fear.
Powerful stuff. And, you know, it's funny because the comic uses the Terminator itself. It's not just a killing machine.
Right.
It's like this force of nature, unstoppable change, like the world's just been flipped upside down.
It's a symbol. All the chaos Lucy is dealing with, the future crashing into the present.
And in the middle of it all, you have Lucy, this ordinary woman in this completely insane situation.
Yeah, she's got to face the Terminator, of course, but it's more than that. It's that knowledge, right?
Right.
Her kid is the key to everything.
It's a lot.
And that's where you see how powerful this idea of motherhood is.
Yes.
It's not just a plot point, it's her strength, her biggest fear.
Everything.
Everything. This constant reminder of what's at stake. For her, for everyone.
It adds a whole other dimension to her character.
Right.
She's not just trying to live. She's trying to bring a child into a world that's going crazy.
It really shows you the love of a mother. That fierce, unwavering.
I can overcome anything.
Anything. Speaking of overcoming, we haven't even touched on the art itself, the way they use shadow and light.
Oh, yeah.
So much dread.
It's funny you should mention the art because I was just thinking about how they use darkness.
Yeah.
It's not just that it looks gritty. It's like the shadows themselves, they feel so oppressive.
Right.
Like they're closing in on Lucy every single panel.
It's almost claustrophobic at times. You know, you get that feeling there's nowhere to hide.
Exactly.
That threat, always right there, around the corner.
Lurking, exactly.
But even in those dark moments, the art, it's still
I know.
strangely beautiful.
Yes.
The way they draw the Terminator, for instance.
Right.
This huge, terrifying figure. But there's this weird
I know. It's like,
elegance to it.
yeah, I like
A
that.
gracefulness, even though it's a killing machine.
It's almost like they made something monstrous,
Yeah.
alluring in a way,
Right.
which I think that gets at that whole thing with the Terminator.
Yeah.
That push and pull technology as savior and destroyer.
It's seductive, but dangerous, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
And you see that in Lucy, too, in her journey.
Absolutely.
She's terrified, but also
Well-
empowered by the future. Yeah.
By this connection to the future. On the one hand, protect her child.
Right.
On the other, This destiny bigger than all of us.
Bigger than her, for sure.
A lot for one person to handle.
Tell me about it, even if you are a tough Bronx cop.
Right, exactly.
And she does handle it.
She does.
She faces these choices, and she's so determined.
I find it inspiring, you know?
It is inspiring.
Because she doesn't have superpowers, no army.
She's just a person.
She's just a woman. Her wits, her courage.
And that love for her kid, that's her weapon.
That's it.
What is it about that kind of hero, you know?
Yeah.
The everyday person.
Right.
These big stories. Why does that work so well?
I think it's because we relate to it, you know? Anyone can be a hero.
It could be us.
Yeah. We see ourselves in her struggle.
Protecting what we love no matter what.
Exactly. You don't need superpowers.
Right.
You don't need fancy tech. Sometimes it's just standing up.
For what you believe.
Exactly. When it's hard, when it's scary. That's the bravest thing.
And isn't that what makes this issue so good?
It really sticks with you.
It's exciting, don't get me wrong, but it's really about that human spirit.
Yeah, to endure.
To keep going. Find hope.
Even when it's bleak. Makes you ask yourself.
Yeah, what would I fight for?
Exactly. What do we leave behind? For the future, you know?
Big questions from a comic book.
See, that's the power of it.
Seriously. It makes you think, but it's not preachy. It's just...
a good story.
Exactly. That's the key, right?
It entertains, it challenges, it stays with you.
Well said.
All right, so are you ready to dive into the final issue of The Terminator, Sector War?
I am so ready. Let's do this.
This one is a wild ride.
Yeah, definitely.
In this issue, her story, it kind of explodes. It's like the ultimate showdown.
It's the culmination of everything. Like all those close calls, all that running, all that hiding, hell leads up to this.
Exactly. And for anyone who, needs a little refresher,
Okay.
Skynet has decided that Lucy's unborn child.
Yeah.
Bad news.
Very bad news for them, at least.
Yeah, for their robot uprising plans.
Right.
Hence all the metal mayhem, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not just about one woman's fight for survival at this point.
It's bigger than that now.
Yeah.
This is about the future.
Totally.
About the fate of humanity. And what I find really fascinating is that Lucy,
Yeah.
she's thrust into this whole battle,
Mm-hmm.
but she's totally unaware of this larger war against Skynet.
Talk about pressure, right?
I'm kidding.
So this issue, it throws us right into the action.
Oh, yeah.
Picks up with Lucy on the run. And where is she?
Oh, you know.
The grimy underbelly of 1984 New York City.
Where else?
Exactly. Right. We're talking subway tunnels, abandoned buildings.
Classic Terminator vibes.
It's gritty. It's claustrophobic.
Oh, and the art by Jeff Stokely.
Yes.
He absolutely nails that feeling of like relentless pursuit.
Totally.
The way he draws those subway tunnels, all dark and dripping.
You can practically hear that Terminator's footsteps.
Oh, yeah. Echoing behind her.
And, she's not just running.
No, she's not.
She is using her surroundings, thinking on her feet, making these split-second decisions,
Right.
dodging between subway cars. She's like the ultimate urban survivalist.
Which makes her so much more interesting than your average action hero.
Totally.
She's resourceful,
Oh, yeah.
quick-witted, determined.
And we see that especially when the action explodes out of the subway and into a construction yard.
Now we're talking.
Right. This scene,
Oh, yeah.
pure action movie gold.
Absolutely.
Forget fist fights. This is where Lucy basically tells the Terminator,
Go on.
time to play with some heavy machinery.
I love it.
Right.
It's brilliant. It shows how desperate she is, but also how she can adapt
Yeah.
and strategize under pressure.
Yeah.
Because let's face it,
Yeah.
she's physically outmatched.
Yeah.
She uses the environment to her advantage,
Exactly.
turns those bulldozers into weapons.
And Stokely's art, man,
Don't even get me started.
it is amazing.
I know.
It just elevates the intensity of this whole scene.
Right.
The scale of the construction equipment against this relentless killing machine.
It's insane.
The dust, the debris flying everywhere.
It's practically cinematic.
It really is. And you know what's interesting about this scene?
What that?
It reminds me of those iconic moments from the Terminator films.
Like what?
Where everyday objects become these tools of resistance against the Terminators.
Right. Like Sarah Connor in The Factory.
Yes, exactly.
Stuff like that.
It's like the filmmakers and the comic book creators, they understand that sometimes.
Yeah.
The most powerful weapon is the one you least expect.
Totally. And that moment when Lucy gets the upper hand,
Oh, tell me about it.
even just for a second,
Yeah.
and yells, "Go to hell."
Chills. Every time.
Right. Such raw emotion.
Yes.
Such defiance. It's more than just anger, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like this primal scream of a mother protecting her child.
Absolutely.
It's that core Terminator theme.
Yes.
Fighting against the impossible odds, fueled by love.
Love and a mother's fierce determination.
Exactly. But of course, this is a Terminator story.
Uh-oh. So Lucy, she's searching for anything that might help her survive. Desperately.
Yeah. And then there it is.
Just a name on a printout.
Sarah Connor.
Sarah Connor.
And everything changes.
Talk about a game changer. Seriously. It's not just that she knows there's someone else out there fighting Skynet.
It's what it means for her child.
Oh my gosh, yes. This kid is clearly important.
Right.
But what does it all mean?
We don't know yet.
It's huge.
It is. And imagine what's going through Lucy's mind.
Oh, I know, right?
All this weight she's been carrying.
Thinking she's totally alone.
Exactly. And then boom.
There's a name.
A connection to someone else who understands.
Someone who's already fighting Skynet.
It's like a tiny flicker of hope.
In this big, dark tunnel.
Exactly.
And you know Lucy.
What?
She's not one to just sit around waiting for a rescue.
Nope, not at all.
Her next move, it really surprised me.
What does she do?
She decides to head west.
To find Sarah Connor.
To find Sarah Connor.
Wow, that's a risky move.
It is. But it tells you a lot about her character.
What's that?
She's not just reacting anymore. She's taking control.
She's shaping her own destiny.
Even if it means facing the unknown.
It's like she's already inherited that Sarah Connor strength.
Totally.
Even though they haven't even met.
But it does make you wonder.
What's that?
Will finding Sarah Connor actually help Lucy and her child?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Or will it just paint a target on their backs?
Because let's face it.
Yeah.
Stepping into Sarah Connor's world.
Right.
It could mean stepping into even greater danger.
That is true, but it could also mean a chance to fight back.
Yeah.
A chance to ensure her child's survival.
Maybe even humanity's future.
I know, right? It's a lot to process.
It is.
And that ending, man.
Tell me about it.
The connection to Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
The possibilities it opens up.
I know.
It's the kind of cliffhanger that makes you want to just dive right into the next chapter.
For sure.
Right.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Even without knowing what happens next.
Yeah.
Lucy's journey so far. It's incredibly satisfying.
It really is.
We've watched her transform.
Tell me about it.
From an ordinary NYPD officer.
Right?
Into a true survivor.
Using her wits.
Her instincts.
And whatever she can get her hands on.
To outmaneuver a Terminator.
Talk about a crash course in badassery.
Seriously. And let's not forget.
What's that?
She's doing all of this while pregnant.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Think about that.
I know.
The stakes are so much higher.
It's terrifying.
It is.
It's one thing to be afraid for yourself.
Absolutely.
But to be carrying a child who's being hunted.
Before they're even born.
I can't even imagine.
It's a whole other level of fear.
And that's what makes her story so powerful.
Exactly. It's not just about the action or the explosions.
Yeah.
It's about so much more than that.
It's about the emotional depth.
It is.
A mother's love.
That fierce determination.
To protect her child.
No matter what.
And that's what elevates this comic.
Tell me about it.
It's not just a simple chase story anymore.
Right. It goes deeper than that.
It speaks to the heart of the Terminator franchise.
Yeah.
That fight for humanity against impossible odds.
This issue, man.
Yeah.
It's a love letter to the Terminator universe.
It really is.
Blending that gritty action with those connections to the Muir story.
And it feels both familiar and fresh at the same time.
Right. It's like comfort food, but with a twist.
Exactly. And you know what we haven't even talked about?
What's that?
The deeper themes in this issue.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Legacy.
Okay.
A mother fighting for a future she may never see.
That's heavy stuff.
It adds a whole other layer to the story.
It does. It makes you think about destiny.
Free will.
Yeah.
The choices we make.
When faced with the unimaginable.
Exactly.
Like, is Lucy's child destined to follow in Sarah Connor's footsteps?
Or can they make their own path?
And what if their future is already determined?
Does knowing that change how they live their lives?
It's a lot to unpack.
I know. It's deep, but it's woven into the story so well.
It really is.
It never feels preachy or overwhelming or anything.
It's a testament to the writers for sure.
Totally. They know how to balance these big ideas.
With that heart-pounding action.
Well, it's a skill.
Definitely. And that's what brings us to the heart of it all.
What makes the Terminator universe so captivating?
It's not just about robots and explosions.
Right. It's about what makes us human.
The choices we make.
The sacrifices we're willing to make for a better future.
And that brings us back to Lucy.
She embodies that hope,
that resilience,
That fierce determination.
to protect what matters most,
Even if it means facing her fears.
and fighting for a future she may never see.
It's like she's stepping into a role she never even auditioned for, you know?
Totally. And the stakes are astronomical.
Right.
I mean, she's fighting for her life, her child's life.
And maybe even all of humanity.
It's a lot. And what's so cool about this issue,
Yeah.
it's not just a standalone story, right?
Definitely not.
It's like this perfectly placed thread
Mm-hmm.
woven into the entire Terminator universe.
It connects to everything.
It does. And even though Lucy's story,
Yeah.
it takes place before the movies,
Right.
it still touches on those same big themes.
Of resistance.
Exactly. Ordinary people
Yeah.
facing these impossible odds.
And that makes you think.
Right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Like knowing Sarah Connor's fate.
Knowing about the future war against Skynet.
Yeah, is Lucy walking into a trap?
Yeah.
Or is this encounter crucial?
Like, could this be the key to changing everything?
I mean, we've seen how time travel can work.
Right. It gets so twisty.
And I love it.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's that delicious uncertainty that keeps you guessing.
It really does.
So even if we don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
the journey itself,
Yeah.
that's what makes this issue so great.
Absolutely. We had those awesome chase scenes.
Yeah.
You got to see Lucy's character really shine.
And those connections to the bigger Terminator story,
They were perfect.
this issue had it all, man.
It did.
This was a deep dive I won't soon forget.
Me neither. And you know what?
What's that?
We've got one last thing for you to ponder.
Oh, yeah. Hit us with it.
So imagine you're Lucy.
Okay.
You know about Skynet, about Sarah Connor.
Mm-hmm.
Do you risk it all to find her?
Trying to change the future.
Or do you disappear?
Start a new life and hope for the best.
That's a tough one, right?
No kidding. And that's what makes this ending so powerful.
It stays with you. Would you try to find Sarah Connor? Or would you vanish?
Until next time, thanks for diving in with us.